Yeah, I don't know what the hell happened to her. She like dropped off the face of the earth. But she was real good in the UFC, WWE. I know she was real famous there. I don't know what the hell happened, but apparently she got some secrets to tell, I guess. So we go find out. But after that, then we're gonna check out Cash Patel, the FBI director. Apparently, he was letting Congress know about their ass today. So yeah, that'll make for a good to watch. I love watching shitty people get owned. But anyways, guys, let's go ahead and jump straight into it. A few things I need to pull up here though before we get started. Shit, I should have already had this up, y'all. My freaking bad. There we go. All right, there we go. But yeah, man. Okay, we got. I think I got it. Oh my gosh, always learning about this streaming shit, man. Especially with OBS. OBS is freaking. I don't know. OBS can be wonkers sometimes. But let's go ahead and jump straight into it, y'all. Let's see. She already looks. She looks different. Like she must not be wearing makeup or something. She looks. I don't know. She don't even look the
People
same in
don't
that
know about
picture.
this. I had to keep it a secret.
What did she have to keep a secret?
It's really, really difficult.
That don't even look like her. Yeah, that's what I remember her looking like.
Rhonda, you were voted the best female athlete of all time. What was it that made you the person that sits in front of me today?
So when I was a kid, it was tough. My dad, he ended up taking his life when I was 8. And
Wow.
in school, I got picked on a lot. I actually dropped out when I was 16.
So that's probably why she learned to
moved
fight.
away from home to train full time. But a lot of the coaches thought that being abusive to the athletes is what gave them the best results. My first coach dislocated my jaw. People don't know about this, but I would get concussions all the time. And every time you get a concussion, it's easier to get another one. So by the time I got into MMA, I had to be able to finish the person off immediately. It was those experiences that made me the
She
bold
was good in
champion.
MMA too,
And you
man.
stacked up a bunch of records, including the fastest ever win, fastest submission, fastest title defense. But then that loss to Holly Holm.
Yeah.
Yeah, she had some pretty bad losses too, man. Had some major knockouts. But she doesn't even look the same. Like she doesn't even look like the same person I remember.
My whole world turned upside down. I had to disappear for a while.
And you decide to move on to the WWE. You don't have nice things to say about it.
Vince McMahon just created a fundamentally sick environment, and I think he still is running the company to this day.
Why?
Man, it's a miracle what makeup can do. Damn, man, without the makeup she looks like a completely different person.
Before this episode starts, I have a small favor to ask from you. 2 months ago, 74% of people that watch this channel didn't subscribe. We're now down to 69%. My goal is 50%. So if you've ever liked any of the videos we've posted,
like
if you
and
like this
subscribe his
channel, can
videos,
you do me
y'all.
a quick favor and hit the subscribe
Diary of
button?
a CEO.
It helps this channel
Check
more
him
than you
out.
know, and the bigger the channel gets, as you've seen, the bigger the guests get. Thank you and enjoy this episode.
I always wonder what the hell happened to her.
Rhonda, when I interview people, I often ask them to tell me the most sort of pertinent first event in their story that went on to shape who they are. And with you, from reading through your story, it's quite clear that the first potentially significant event happened as you were being born.
Yeah, I was born with the umbilical cord around my neck, and I was like a 0 on the Apgar scale, which is like the health of a baby.
Why the fuck does she look like she's talking out the side of her mouth? She might have got too many concussions. Something, what's wrong there?
And I was blue, they thought I was dead. It took a while to revive me. And I had some damage from that, some neurological damage, which expressed itself as a motor speech disorder called apraxia, which is basically I
Aproxia?
would have words formed in my head and try to say it, but there was a kind of disconnect between my brain and my mouth, and it would come out differently than how I said it. So I ended up having to do many years of speech therapy to be able to get over it. And sometimes I struggle a little bit, but
Look, dude, I'm not trying to knock on her, okay? But without the makeup, man, she don't look the same, man. Either that or she's just been gone for so long that I don't know. How old is she now? I wonder. She's probably got to be in her at least mid 30s, maybe late 30s now. I could be wrong, but damn.
I've dealt with it well enough where people don't notice. But doing things like pro wrestling promos and stuff where everybody like will scrutinize you for like saying a single syllable or not pronouncing every single word perfectly. Like if I just
Yo, man, I think them concussions have fucked her up a little bit. She seems different. She's acting different. Maybe just because I haven't seen her out of the ring, I guess.
stuttered like I did just now or mispronounced something like I did just now in a wrestling promo, I would be like hung over it. And so, there's little things like that that still express themselves to this day, but mostly it's not noticeable now.
The umbilical cord was wrapped around your neck.
Mm-hmm.
The doctors gave you a 0 out of 10 in terms of your health when you were a baby.
Wow.
What age did you learn to speak properly?
I didn't really speak like in full
Should Vince McMahon be should he be worried right now? Like, is she fixing to throw Vince McMahon under the bus and the whole WWE under the bus? Shit, man, she might be getting ready to throw the whole organization under the bus.
eligible sentences until I was like around 5 or so.
When they did brain scans, did they notice anything different in your brain at that point because of the umbilical cord incident?
No one ever like did a brain scan or anything like that. I got tested for deafness for a long time, autism. Apraxia didn't exist as a diagnosis until after I'd kind of really gotten over it. It was actually like a fan mom and her daughter that brought me like a pamphlet and was like, "We've heard your story. It's been so inspirational to us. We think what you had is this thing called apraxia." And
What the hell
and
is
I was like, "Oh my
apraxia?
God, this actually fits everything that we experienced perfectly." And we ended up having a walk for apraxia here. I got to like meet a bunch of different kids and stuff that were dealing with similar things. But yeah, it's kind of like newer on in the
Dude, like she doesn't even look at her ears. Look how small her ears are. I don't remember her looking like this, y'all. Oh my gosh. She don't look like the same person. So used to seeing her with her makeup and in the ring, I guess. Never seen her just like in the chill mode, I guess.
field, people being aware of it. But I think that's what made me delve into sports so much because, with judo, especially, you like communicate physically with a person. You have to put your hands on another person. You have to talk and interact with that person. And so when I was having a hard time, when we moved back to LA, like really socializing with other kids, sports, specifically judo made it.
I wonder if that's why she's not doing the UFC and wrestling anymore. Because her brain is just fucked up from all the concussions. Because every now and then it looks like she's talking out of the right side of her mouth. I don't know if you guys notice that.
Like kind of, it was like a conduit for me to be able to like connect with other kids and have something to talk about.
What was home life like for you before the age of 10?
I mean, I thought everything was perfect and awesome. My dad passed when I was 8, though.
Damn,
and
that sucks.
I didn't know, but he had broken his back in a sledding accident when we'd first moved to North Dakota. And he had like a rare blood disorder where he couldn't heal from it. And so he had been receiving diagnoses basically saying he'd become like a paraplegic and then a quadriplegic and eventually die. And we didn't know that he was going through this or dealing with chronic pain or anything like that. So he ended up taking his life when I was 8. But he'd been going through that for years, but had kept it from us.
See, I can't say I fault her dad for that, man. There's some people, and a lot of people can't understand that, but I can get it. There's a lot of people that they're just in so much pain that they would rather just end their life. Like they're either in so much pain that they then end up getting addicted to Percocets or hydrocodones. I mean, I get it, man. And it's hard for some people to be like, why would he do that? But if you're not in that kind of pain all the time, it's really hard for you to wrap your head around that.
And so then like my whole world turned upside down. And then my mom ended up remarrying a couple years later. And then when I was around 10, 11 is when we moved to right in the border of Santa Monica and Venice.
Your father had a sledding accident. He's told that he's going to be a quadriplegic soon.
Yes. At some point, he broke his back, and his disease called Bernard-Soulier syndrome makes it difficult to clot your blood. It's like a platelet. Your platelets are malformed, and so he wasn't able to heal basically. And they put a rod in his back to try and help it heal, but his spine was just crumbling away. So his spine was basically like falling apart.
He died by suicide.
Yeah, he said he didn't want his.
So either one of two things: either he was just in so much pain, which I'm sure he was, or two, he couldn't face the fact that he was going to be a quadriplegic. So one of those two things, and it might have been the combination of the both. I mean, that alone would be enough to make somebody depressed. You're a fully functioning, healthy dude. Then all of a sudden, you're paralyzed. You can't do shit.
Our last memories of him to be laying in a bed with tubes running in and out of him. He was in a lot of pain all the time, but didn't like being, doped up on painkillers. So he just wanted to go out his own way.
Did you have any idea that he was suffering at that time?
None at all. Completely kept it from us.
Wow.
So 1 minute he's there and then the next minute he's not.
Yeah.
See, now that's a true man, y'all. That's a true man. He's not trying to he knows he's in pain. He knows he's in trouble, but he don't want to worry his kids, man. That's a true dude right there. Yeah. Just because you're having a bad day, man, or if you're in pain or whatever, don't put it on the other people around you, man. Don't make their life miserable too. Yeah.
How did you find out that he had died by suicide?
My mom told me, right after it happened.
Wow.
How does a mother explain that to an 8-year-old child?
I mean, she's a PhD in educational psychology, so very, technically, I guess, she just kind of laid the facts out of this is what happened and this is what's going on. And we wanted to keep it from you because she said that my dad just wanted us to be kids and not have to worry about it.
She told you the details of his suicide?
Yeah.
What impact does that have on you?
I'm going to assume that he went out by shooting himself with a gun. I'm going to assume. I don't know. Maybe we'll find out for sure.
I mean, in the long run, I felt like it just kind of gave me this feeling that even if I feel like everything's okay, that everything can come crashing down at any moment. And I guess I had lost any feeling of security of even when everything is going great. I feel like the ball is about to drop, and that's something that I had to work through till this day. And I feel like mostly I can feel pretty secure with my life and where I'm at. But yeah, it plagued me for a long time.
That's got to be a hard thing to deal with, man. Luckily, I never had to go through that. But imagine if you were 8 years old, 7 years old, you're old enough to kind of know what's going on. And at that age, you're depending on the security of your mother and your father or your grandparents or whoever you're living with. And then all of a sudden, one of them's gone and then maybe both of them's gone. And you're like, oh shit, what do I do now? because then all of a sudden you got to grow up really fast, and luckily I didn't have to go through that, but I know there's a lot of people that do, and that would be, that would shock the shit out of me if I was 8 years old again. I'd be like, oh shit, what do we do now?
You were close to him.
Yeah, I was big time daddy's girl. Yeah, but as part of the speech therapy was my sisters were talking for me, and so he had to work a little bit of a drive from the house, so he would be in Devil's Lake during the week, and we'd come home to Minot on the weekends. And so the speech therapist said I should spend one-on-one time with a parent so that I'm forced to speak. So my sisters can't translate my gibberish for me. And so it'd be me and him during the week, and we'd come home on the weekend. So it was like, my whole world.
It's almost unimaginable for an 8-year-old to try and process that in reality, and because I think at 8 years old you don't understand the concept of suicide or why
somebody would
human
do that,
could
yeah.
die by suicide. And at that age, what is the story you tell yourself in the book? You talk about how you would tell yourself that he's just gone away on business and that he's going to return at some point.
Yeah, well, that's the only times that he would really be gone away from the house for extended periods of times because he had like a business trip or something. And so that was just kind of like what I told myself to cope for a while. But then I found out later that my grandfather committed suicide as well.
Damn.
So he was a second generation suicide.
Your siblings and your mother, the impact of the loss on your dad on them, was that noticeable? Did you notice a change in them?
My sisters didn't ever really want to talk about it, and I think
that's probably why she got into fighting, because not only was she probably bullied when she was little, I think she said that, but probably the anger of losing her dad so early. That's probably where she probably took a lot of her anger out in the UFC. But hey, it made her a star in the UFC and then the WWE for a little bit. And she didn't hang around the WWE for very long for some reason, which
Yeah.
which hopefully we're going to find out. Vince might be watching this, man. He might be trying to sue her after this.
No one really wanted to talk about it at all. It wasn't like the kind of thing that we would bring up all the time.
Your mother at this time, she's a champion in her own right?
Yeah. In everything. She got a perfect score on the SATs at 16, graduated college at 19. Then she won the world championships in judo, the first American to ever win the world
her mother
championships
was
in
in
judo
there
while
too.
she was working as a single mother engineer and getting her PhD in educational psychology.
I didn't know her mother was in
she's incredible.
martial arts too.
When I was reading about her and doing some research on her, she sounds like a little bit of a superwoman. So I went and found, I wanted to see her. And I found this picture of her.
Yep, that's Mom.
She looks like a badass.
She is badass. She was the original armbar lady. She actually tore her knees out when she was 17 and had to learn how to win basically just on the ground. Wow. So she was the one that would always win by armbar.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and she was kind of like taught me how she did it, and I added to it and learned things as well. But it's become like kind of a family heirloom is the armbar. Yeah.
Okay, so the martial arts
the family armbar
already in the family.
I often think that our childhoods and those sort of early formative experiences and the traumas that we experience, they leave fingerprints on us in various ways that follow us for the rest of our lives, for good, for bad, and sometimes for ugly. When you think about those sort of first 10 years of your life and the fingerprints it left on you as an adult and the person that sits in front of me today, what are those things that are most sort of ingrained in you from that time of your life?
What's most ingrained in me from being a kid? Well, I think like losing a parent is a huge formative event. Have you ever read Blink by Malcolm Gladwell?
No, but I've spoken to him on the podcast, but no, I haven't.
Yeah, well, he mentions that that kids that lose a parent before they're 10 actually end up being more successful statistically later in life. And it's like, well, he's the one that delved into it.
Yeah, I could believe that. I could 100% believe that. Because when you're at that age, because I remember when I was 8, we were all 8 at one time. If I was to lose one of my parents or both of my parents at that time, Now, my dad, I didn't have to worry about my dad because my dad, he passed away uh, from an overdose when I was like 2 years old. So I never really knew my dad. Um, but me, my mother, my grandmother, they raised me pretty much, and my grandfather too. He passed away about 4 years ago. My grandfather did. But yeah, man, if if I didn't have them at that time, I could see where that would make you grow. Like I said, you got to grow up fast then, because then you're like, oh shit, because like mom and dad when you're little are like they're your security, man. It's like I ain't got to worry about a roof over my head. I ain't got to worry about bills. The electricity's always on. They get me toys and shit. Then all of a sudden, the people that you were depending on are all of a sudden are gone, and you're like, oh shit. Now what do we do? So yeah, I could see where that would force somebody to grow up real quick.
This book, but when I was reading it, I'm like, oh, I could see that makes sense in a way. And the apraxia and stuff, like really pushing me towards sports and like being physical and things like that. And being the youngest of the sisters. So, I was the one that was getting beat on at the house. So it made me tougher and want to constantly be able to like prove myself as, not just being the little baby, but deserving of respect and stuff like that. And those kind of like made me into.
What can I get you?
I want a
stupid
job where I
ads.
can help people.
I want a job building rockets.
I want to work somewhere creative.
He wants to work somewhere creative, guys.
Dare to discover with LinkedIn's AI-powered job search.
There we go.
The kind of kid that would, when I first started swimming, I wanted to win the Olympics in swimming. When I first started judo, I was like, I just want to win the Olympics in this now. And, but that was just how encouraging my parents were, if they're like, oh, you want to swim? You can win the Olympics in swimming, And so I was just always fed that expectation that I could do everything.
And at sort of 10 years old, you moved to Santa Monica.
That could be good or dangerous.
And you had your first attempt and try at judo. Is that right?
Yeah, I was swimming here, but I wasn't so much into swimming. It's kind of boring. And I didn't like waking up in the morning.
Hey, I agree with that, y'all. Pools are fun for like the first day or two. But then to go out there and go swimming every day, the shit gets boring. You can only do so many laps and go under the water so many times before you just get fucking bored.
And jumping in a cold pool.
Right. I don't blame you.
Yeah, so after a little bit of that, I was like, I want to do something else. And my mom, she trained here in the 80s, back when she did judo. And so she went to go visit a bunch of her old teammates that had all gone and opened up clubs of their own. And I went and tried it. And I remember my first day, I didn't even have a hair tie. My hair was all over the place, crazy. And I was like trying to figure out how to do judo. And I had the most fun that I ever had, because I loved that there was no one way to do it. If it worked, it was right. And it was kind of like mentally intriguing. You have to figure it out. You're like solving a puzzle. You're like having a conversation with the other person, And so because it was so like mentally engaging, I think that's why I liked it so much. And when I won.
Shit, man, I'd be afraid to be in a judo class with a female, man. Shit, you touch her wrong, you might get a sexual harassment charge. Like, I'm serious, man. I'd be afraid to, man. Be like, shit, I touch her the wrong way. Man, they'd be trying to prosecute me.
In my first tournament, I got that feeling of winning that I didn't quite get in swimming. I was one of the top kids in the state, but I wouldn't like really win swimming meets. And so first time I won something, I got like addicted to that feeling, I guess. So I actually dropped out of school when I was 16 to be able to train and do judo full time and move away from home to train full time.
What was your mother's opinion on you doing judo, seeing as she was a champion in judo herself, when her daughter turns around and says, Mum, I want to do judo too?
I can't really say how she felt, but I was kind of like identified as being like a prodigy of judo pretty young. And she wanted to kind of take an outside role of making sure that I was training with all the right people at the right time. She wasn't the person that was on, like, she of course taught me everything that she could, and but she didn't really want to be that overbearing coach mom on the mat. She more of like, was like, you go here, train with this person, you go here, train with that person, was like the overarching like architect of my career and everything like that.
You entered.
You know, one of the stupidest forms of martial arts is Taekwondo. That shit is so ridiculous. I remember doing one class of that crap, and I was like, half of the shit wasn't practical. It's like, yeah, if you're out on the street, like, what the fuck am I doing these forms for? Doing these arm blocks and shit. I don't know, man. Just in a real world scenario, that shit. I did like a couple classes. I was like, fuck this. This shit ain't gonna. Taekwondo, no. Jiu-jitsu, I could see, yes. Um, maybe what's another one? Yeah, Taekwondo. What's the other one? Tang Sudo. That one's not any good either. But yeah, man, don't do Taekwondo. That shit is not practical. They're like, hey, the guy's coming at you like this. It's like, dude, the dude in real life, he ain't coming like that. He ain't gonna be like, I'm not gonna be like, hey, man, if you're gonna stab me this way, okay? It doesn't work like that.
To your first tournament and you win the tournament with instant wins, ippons. I don't know what an ippon is.
Ippon is like if you throw someone flat on their back.
Okay, right. So you win that first tournament, people start considering you to be this child prodigy in judo. What was it about, when you look back on yourself now with all the wisdom you have, what was it about you that made you excel above your peers at judo? What was it about your character or something that you did?
I mean, there had to be some sort of a genetic factor because like my mom and my dad are both like good athletes. But I think, yeah, a part of it was personality wise, but I just really wanted to win. I cared.
Why?
I mean, winning felt good, but it really hurts me to lose. I hated, like my first tournament I lost, I like locked myself in a room for like a week. I was so upset, but I was willing to get my heart broken. I was willing to care about something so much that my heart would be broken if I didn't, achieve it. And I don't know. I felt like the idea of being better at something than everybody else like made me special somehow. It was like proof. And it was also, it wasn't like I was dragging myself through doing it to be great at something because that's what it was. I really enjoyed like mastering the art of judo, like figuring it out. It was like endlessly intriguing to me at the time. And I remember when I was 16, I like realized while I was doing newaza, which is fighting on the ground.
It would be interesting, which I'm sure we'll probably find out in this interview. It'd be interesting that she was so into martial arts and then UFC fighting and then WWE. I wonder if she's just giving it all up now. Like she's just burned out.
Found that the end of one move was the beginning of another one. And that's when I moved from like trying to memorize all these separate techniques to trying to combine them into like a path and like a web. And I didn't come up and, newaza and judo is not the focus of the sport really. Maybe it's like 20% of the time people spend on the ground, maybe less. But it wasn't like Gracie Jiu-Jitsu where they like show you like, oh, this is the way and this is the structure. No, it was very open-ended. And so I was kind of like, I had to create like my own like system, basically my own fighting style and everything like that. And that was, I think, the most interesting to me, that I was like creating a philosophy and everything and concepts and how did I piece everything together. And so I think that was the most interesting part.
I think that's a good way to do it. Have somebody show you the basics of how to do fighting, but then you need to put your own twist on it. Because if you're just copying off the other guy, everybody just kind of knows what to expect from you. So yeah, like learn the basics, get the knowledge, but then kind of throw your own twist to it.
I could train for hours and hours and hours and hours and not realize that I'm tired because I'm trying to piece something together. But I think we call it like opposite ADD, where I like fixate on things for like hours on end and I can't get off of it. And but if you tell me to like run, I'm like, oh my God, the whole time I'm like, okay, I'm tired, I'm more tired than I was. But if you tell me like if I had to try and figure out how to like do a certain punch a certain right way or do a certain throw a certain right way, I would do it for hours on end, trying to get it absolutely perfect and not realize all that time had passed. So, and sometimes that's like a negative thing, or I'll fixate on something stupid I did like several years ago and not be able to stop myself from thinking about it. But it's also the same thing that would keep me training on a single technique for hours on end, just trying to get it right. And my mom said when I was a kid, I would draw the same picture over and over and over again. I remember it was like a bunny in the middle, and there was like a bush, and a tree on each side, and like a sun with the cool glasses, right? My mom would be like, "What? Why do you keep drawing this picture over and over again?" Thousands of times I would draw the same drawing. And she said my answer was that I'm just trying to get it to match the picture in my head. I couldn't understand why when I thought of a bunny and the bushes and all this stuff and I drew it, it didn't look exactly like a bunny. And so I would keep drawing it over and over and over again to try and get it. And I guess that's like, my personality, I guess. It's something that I can't really control for better or for worse.
That almost seems like obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, where somebody's got to be like when they're fixated on something and something's got to be perfect, or they're a clean freak, like everything's got to be clean and neat. Kind of sounds like OCD.
And is that perfectionism? Is that how you'd kind of define that? This sort of obsessive pursuit of making the thing perfect as you see it?
I don't think it's so much perfectionism as it is mastery. I want to like master and understand something completely. It's kind of like an unfinished puzzle, because I can live in squalor. Like I don't think like the perfectionism of everything around me is really so important. But yeah, being able to understand something completely is something that nags me. If I don't completely understand it, I have to like keep going back to it.
Big Jim. You go and train with Big Jim at 16 years old. You leave home at 16 years old and go and train with Big Jim. Who's Big Jim and why did you go and live with him, for 8 months roughly?
Big Jim.
Oh God. And on and off.
Why was she calling him Big Jim? Huh? Oh shit. Big Jim, okay.
For like years I was up there. Well, Big Jim was one of the best coaches in the country, and he trained his son, Little Jimmy, who had just won the 1999 World Championships in judo. And judo's not that big in the U.S., so the places that are good at it and have good coaches and good people to train with are few and far between. And Pedro's judo was one of those places.
Yeah, leaving home at 16 is unusual to say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What impact did that have on you?
It was tough. It was hard. I remember being homesick a lot. It was really isolating, all I did was train all day. There wasn't any other kids my age. I was always around people older.
Well, I'm glad that her mom trusted for her to go stay with this dude to train or whatever. Shit, nowadays, man, if my daughter tried to say something like that, I'd be like, hell no. You crazy, man. Yeah, I mean, maybe back in the 90s you could do that, but here in 2025, I don't think so.
To me, part of being like a sport prodigy is no one your age is on your level, so I was always training with people older. I also at the same time felt like I was in the middle of my montage to do something like amazing. I thought I was going to shock the world and be the first American to win the gold medal in judo at 17. And so, it was worth it to me.
And at this time, you're 16, you have your first experience with what we call bulimia. And you talk about this in the book where, because of the pressure for you to make weight almost every week, you struggled with bulimia for the first time. What do I need to understand about that? Because I don't understand what bulimia is in full entirety, but
I've heard of it, but what is it? Is that like that's not like anorexic, right? Where people make themselves throw up kind of thing? Or maybe they just don't eat. So, like, was she just not eating so she could make weight? I don't know.
don't understand the circumstances that would lead a 16-year-old to make decisions that would be categorized as bulimic?
Well, basically, I had to beat a weight on a deadline very often. And it's not really a weight that I could healthily stay at. And so I would have to cut weight to get there. And it started to give me like a really unhealthy relationship with food, where I would like hoard food while I was cutting weight, like candy bars and stuff like that. And then after I made weight, I would like gorge myself on it. Like I didn't know anything. I didn't have any resources to help me out with it. And
Yeah, but does that make you strong for when it comes to fighting day? I mean, because it seems like that would make you kind of weak. Like, yeah, you're cutting, trying to make weight. Then you make weight, but then aren't you weaker at that point?
so it just kind of spiraled into a disorder.
And that disorder would mean throwing up your food after you'd eaten it on occasion.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I remember the first time
Yeah, so anorexic. Yep.
I did it was I had like a childhood coach or something took me out one day, and he like basically like forced me to have a chocolate shake. And he was like, no, you got to have a chocolate shake. Come on, it's fine. You train all the time. You need to relax and have a chocolate shake. And I felt like so guilty about the chocolate shake that I had to be like, make weight or something like that weekend or something. There's no way I would be able to make it. And so like, I made myself throw up the chocolate shake, and it was actually like, it was cold. It didn't hurt. It was that bad, And I was like, oh, well, that wasn't even that terrible. And so I thought it was like a one-time thing, but the next time I like ate too much and I felt like really guilty about it. It just became like, the panic button of if I ate too much and I had a deadline coming up where I had to be a certain weight. I felt like it was.
I understand you could probably make yourself throw up, but that just seems like an awful lot of work to try to make yourself throw up, man. Plus, I've only threw up a handful of times in my life. And I don't like throwing up, and that feeling is never fun. And I damn sure would not volunteer to have it done. I don't understand how somebody could do that, but I guess if you're really that passionate about making weight and keeping your weight.
Only thing I could do. And I was a little girl that was growing, I like grew 4 inches and like doubled my weight in a short period of time. And so I just couldn't stay at a lower weight. So, but you have all this outside pressure to be able to maintain the same weight, even though as an athlete, you're growing and putting on muscle and even getting taller. So it was kind of like fighting nature.
I read in your book that they called you Miss Man.
Miss Man.
Yeah, in school. It wasn't cool for, little girls to be muscular back then. And so before I dropped out at 16, I was really muscular, and people would like grab at my arms and make fun of me all the time, to the point that I would just kind of like, I'd wear a zip-up hoodie all the time, no matter how hot it was. So I'd always try to like cover up my arms, how muscular I was, which is one reason why when I got older, that trying to like fight that idea that being muscular was masculine was something that became important to me, because that, if you were a teenage girl in the early 2000s, it was a pretty unhealthy standard that was presented to us. So yeah, I didn't fit the very narrow scope of what was considered attractive at that time. And now it's like considered like really cool for, women to have muscles. Now all the model.
I wouldn't have a problem with it, but I could see where that would be a problem, dude. There's a lot of people, especially dudes, they don't want their woman with fucking muscles. They don't want to be having to fight their woman every day, yo.
Models have like stomach definition and stuff like that, and like are doing boxing and all this stuff and want to look toned, but that wasn't the case back then. That was something that I got teased for a lot.
By 18, you leave home and you go off to you leave home, as you say, because you felt like you wanted to have some control over your life. And I think you were en route to the Olympics at this point. You were thinking about going to the Olympics at 21 years old. You actually competed in the Beijing Olympics and you were the first American woman to get an Olympic medal. And then what I found really shocking is that you made $6,000 from winning that medal at the Olympics.
Yeah, after I got taxed on it. It was
After you got taxed on it.
$10,000 and I got taxed on it. I actually bitched about it so much in the media when I was doing MMA that they got rid of that tax, but still, you'd only get $10,000.
Is there like a bit of a through line
crazy.
in your story that starts very young about this idea of
Do all that work to go to the Olympics, and I'm only walking away with like $6,000 to $10,000? Man, fuck that. At least give me $100,000.
the importance of validation and respect from other people? This kind of bit of a chip on your shoulder that was driving you.
Yeah, I think it started out as something that drove me, and then it ended up being something that held me back that I had to kind of shake myself from. But, I also benefited greatly from it. So I'm not saying I regret anything, but I know that it wasn't like a sustainable model for me to, be happy in the long run.
Because I spoke to Tim Grover, who trained LeBron and Kobe, and he said the same thing to me. He said, when he's talking about Kobe and all those years training him to be a champion, that our dark side and our light side are interconnected. When he's talking about our dark side, he's basically saying like the trauma, the difficult things about us, the things that we'd probably keep in the shadow if we could, they end up creating the greatness that we see on our screens. And it's like, you can't separate out the two. You can't just have this person and not this person, unfortunately. But like he makes the case to me that we all have a dark side.
That's very true, man. The people that struggle the most in life, especially if they struggle early on in their life, usually tend to go on to do better things than most people. Like if you grew up and you had a cushy life, like even all the way up to 18, you're not really quite as motivated, because you're not worried about, like if your mom and dad were always there, you're not really motivated at that point. But if you lose a family member early enough, yeah, you're gonna be motivated.
And unfortunately, as I say, it's responsible for our light side. And I see that throughout your story, this sort of journey to understanding that part of you. And as you say in your book, like liberating yourself from it, which is really interesting because I feel like I've been through this, I've been trying to do the same thing in my life. I've been trying to take back the control of some of it because, as you said there, it can lead you to the top of the mountain, and then it can sometimes bring you down the other side, or it can make you miserable at the top of the mountain.
I think I had to get to the top of several mountains to realize that like the mountain climbing, it wasn't really going to be what made me happy. And I had this idea that if I collected or hoarded achievements, that someday they would all add up to happiness, that I would be able to I did this thing. So now I could be happy forever. Like my idea was, if I'm like the first American to win the Olympics.
That's why you got people, they got like millions of dollars, they got a big house. I've seen these people. They have a big house, they got like 10 cars, and they still look just fucking mad at the world. Like they just don't look happy. At some point, like it's nice to have a house and a car, but at some point, if you go too overboard, you get too big of a house, you get so many cars. Well, now your possessions kind of own you, because now you got to make sure you're making that same money for the rest of your life, no matter what you're doing, to be able to keep up with that house and keep up with them 10 cars. So then at that point, it's almost like you're working for your possessions, really. So I can get it, man. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying having money's bad, but money, it's kind of like one of those things, somebody will say, well, I wish I had like $1 million. Then they get $1 million. And then once they realize after they've had it for a while, it's like, wasn't really that big of a deal, if that makes sense. I'm sure we've all had incidences like that.
Judo, then I will be happy for the rest of my life. And it's not, it didn't really work like that. Like I could, achieve these great things and they would make me happy for a time, but your life goes on past that. And so I kind of had to figure out, after hoarding all these bucket list experiences, that that I would actually end up just forgetting at times. Like someone had to remind me the other day, remember when you flew with the Thunderbirds? I'm like, oh yeah. and then they didn't equate to the actual happiness. And I had to I thought that if I like could make my past into something that I'd done all these great things, that it would dictate my future. But I had to kind of figure out that like making myself happy with every day that I'm winning, that I'm living individually is what I needed to do. And there's no amount of accomplishments that you can like add to, you know, your trophy shelf that are going to equate to being happy forever in the future. It just is impossible.
Yeah, I mean, you can have all those achievements, man. Now, I wasn't gonna, I really don't even want to say this now. I'm not trying to brag, but I was also in martial arts from the time I was 4 years old all the way up until I was about 16. And my grandmother used to take me to tournaments all the time. I got 800 trophies. I still hang on to these damn things. I got them in the shed behind my house. I don't even know why I hold on to them, though, because they're just sitting there collecting dust. But I get it. You know, you do all these achievements, and it's like, okay, so you did the achievement, but really, it makes you happy for a little bit. But then that's why I say I think you got to have a purpose in life. Like getting material things definitely is not the answer because we've all done that, man. You know, you get a car, or maybe say you get a boat, right? And it's fun for like the first month. Then after a while, you get tired of the boat because you get tired of having to go launch the damn thing. You get tired of having to fill it up, pull it out of the water. You get tired of it. You know, you want it, and then once you got it, it's like, okay, well, I'm bored of that. And then you're like, okay, well, I want something else. You get that. Then when the newness wears off, then you're constantly just looking for the next thing. That almost like the next high, you know? And you're not going to get happiness that way. You got to find a way. You got to have a purpose in life, but I think you get more out of you got to look out for yourself, number one, but I think you get more out of helping other people. Although I'm not a big fan of people anymore because most of them are dickheads. That's just my opinion. But yeah, man, I get what she's saying.
And it sounds like you were living with a bit of a secret throughout your sort of early MMA career, and the fact that you had what appeared to be a bit of a concussion-based brain injury of sorts. Because in your book, you talk about how you realized that in sparring, if someone hit you pretty hard in the head, you'd end up seeing stars.
Yeah, I mean, people didn't really know about CTE back when I was doing judo, and I would get concussions all the time, and just be told that, you know, hey, my head hurts, I have photo vision. I would say like stuff like that, and they'd be like, just stop being a pussy and like keep training. And so,
Yeah,
I would get, you know, dozens of concussions and never be allowed to stop, and I would have to keep training through them, and the symptoms would persist.
okay, you did that nowadays, man. That's the way it was in like the 90s and earlier. Man, they didn't have all that CTE bullshit, man. You ain't hurt. Get out there. You're just being a wuss. But that shit adds up over time, man.
This for weeks, to the point that I was experiencing concussion symptoms more often than I wasn't for a 10-year judo career. I mean, that's the kind of thing that, like, you know, leads to CTE, all these football players that we're dealing.
I think that's why she's talking out of the side of her mouth. See right there. That was the perfect spot for me to pause. Look, she looks like she's talking out of the side of her mouth. I'm not trying to make fun of her, y'all. I'm just saying I've never seen her. She just doesn't seem like the same person. I've never seen her like this. And maybe that's why she got out as well. But we're gonna. I'm interested to see what she's got to say about the WWE and the MMA if she's got anything. But I think something had to have happened with the WWE and Vince McMahon because she got out of MMA. She went there and she was a star, man. Like everybody knew who Ronda Rousey was, but she didn't stay there long. And then she just disappeared. Like never heard from her. This is the first time I've seen her in shit years now.
With were having concussions repeatedly and not being allowed to rest. And so by the time I got into MMA, like this is the kind of injury that accumulates over time. You don't, you know, it doesn't go away. Every time you get a concussion, it's easier to get another one. And so by the time I got into MMA, it was really easy for me to get concussion symptoms. And I'd rested for a couple years, you know, so at first it wasn't so bad, but it just got worse and worse and worse with time. Even if I'm winning a fight and, you know, 14 seconds and the other person doesn't touch me, there's 50 rounds of sparring that went into that training camp. And you're wearing like a headgear and gloves, which are meant to protect you cosmetically, but these gloves are 14 ounces and you're wearing this headgear, so like your brain is...
You know, that's true, man. Just because you're wearing that headgear, man, I got popped in the head a couple times, man. And even with that headgear, that shit fucking hurts. You're supposed to be sparring and you're not supposed to be hitting that hard, but you'd always have some kids that were just like they were in a fucking street brawl, trying to hit you as hard as they could.
You know, suspended in fluid. The larger the thing is, like if it's 14 ounces, it's easier actually to give you a concussion when you're sparring. And it's the kind of thing that I just didn't want to like say anything about. You know, I didn't want to address it myself or any kind of weakness in myself. And I just kept telling myself that I just have to be perfect and not allow these people to touch me. I have to create this fighting style that's so efficient that I don't take any damage. And it got to a point where I fought Sarah McMahon and she barely tapped me, and I obviously had a concussion afterward. I couldn't bear to look at the lights. I had to have everyone turn the lights off.
Damn.
And I was looking for a way out, you know, because I know I couldn't sustain that forever. But yeah, it got to the point where if I got like tapped at all, with the, you know, instead of the point, Stephanie McMahon slapped me and gave me a concussion, you know, and you know, a woman then that has never been a fighter in her life and even, you know, is past her slapping prime. If she can slap me across the face and give me a concussion, you know, I shouldn't be fighting anymore.
Did you keep this a
Wow,
secret?
that's crazy.
I had to keep it a secret from everybody. My coaches, Dana, even like myself, I just didn't want to face up to it. I just thought that I could keep it going forever. And so that, like, I think was the most frustrating thing to me. That like in my first loss, I got tapped in the beginning and I'd fallen down the stairs a week or so, like maybe a week or so before that, knocked myself out falling down the stairs at my house, and then didn't say anything and went into the fight anyway. Had a horrible weight cut, had the wrong mouth guard, which didn't have the protection on the back of the bottom teeth. So the first time she taps me, my teeth get knocked loose and I'm out on my feet. Like when I say out on my feet, it means that like I have no depth perception basically, and I'm at a very limited capacity of what my brain can, the information that it could give me. And so I knew that if she knew that I was hurt, I wouldn't be able to defend myself. And so I had to keep coming forward without knowing how far away she was and not being fully,
that's crazy.
hold of my facilities just to keep the fight going, hoping that I would recover, but I just couldn't. And so,
You know, watching her though, you would have never known that she was dealing with any of this bullshit. So she was hiding it pretty well. I would have never known. I mean, I should know since she was in MMA and did fighting and stuff, but you didn't know that she was suffering from head issues.
I think that's one of the things that really dug at me for so long, that so many people were like saying like, oh, Rhonda's game plan was bad or whatever this, and like they didn't know that like I wasn't like present. I was like just trying to survive. I couldn't see how far away she was.
That is so fucked up.
It wasn't like that was my game plan or anything like that. I was like completely disabled. And
But to think, I mean, that takes some balls, man. I know some dudes that wouldn't even do that. They'd just be like, hey, man, I'm messed up. I can't go in there. But for her to know that she's already messed up, she's not feeling right in the head, and she can't even tell the depth perception, still go in there, you know? That's just crazy.
When I tried to fight again, and I was like, okay, I'll give myself a break and I'll make sure the mouth guard's perfect. This time I'm not going to knock myself out right before the fight and all those things. And the same thing, I just got tapped and I was out, you know, even if I was out on my feet, I was out. So
Dang.
I just didn't have the hardware to continue fighting. And a lot of people would say like, oh, you're a fucking quitter, you're this or that. And it's really difficult because I'd never had been more skilled as a fighter. I'd never been better in my life, but I just neurologically wasn't capable of continuing to fight at that level. And I couldn't say anything about it then because I wanted to go and do pro wrestling, and they already have their own controversy that they had to deal with wrestlers having, CTE and all kinds of damage from concussions. And so it's such a volatile subject that I couldn't say anything about it. And I couldn't say anything about it leading into my last fight.
So because she did good in MMA. She became the champion, but she didn't stay in MMA long. And then when she went to WWE, she wasn't in there long either. At least this shit's starting to make a little more sense.
Right? Because then I'd be basically telling the other person that, that putting a target on my head literally. So I just had to stay silent about it for years and let people make their own assumptions about me. And, it was tough because in some ways, I've never been better as a fighter. I've never had a better grasp of everything than I ever had. I'd never been faster, stronger, everything else. But, you only have so many hits that you can take. And unfortunately, I took the vast majority of them as a kid doing judo.
I want to make sure I completely understand the context of what it's like to get a concussion and to live with a concussion that ends up compounding to make it even more sensitive. You take those big hits when you're younger. They ask you to fight through the concussion. By the time you're in the UFC, you've developed this incredible style where you basically get people out of there instantly. I mean, in the leading up to your fight with Amanda Holmes, I remember the commentator saying at the time that you'd knocked or you'd submitted everyone within sort of 30 seconds of the fight starting. So your style had kind of adapted to become, I'm going to get this person out of.
Yeah, I'm fucked up. I can't do 3 rounds. So I got to figure out some way I can take you out in the first round, quick. Hell yeah, I'd be doing the same thing.
There immediately.
That wasn't an accident. That was the goal.
That was the goal.
The goal was I had to be able to finish the person off immediately because that was the only way that I could fight, is to not take any damage.
Because if they had hit you in the head at that point, there was a risk that you would get a concussion, and you were aware of that risk, but your coaches weren't.
No.
Were any of your coaches aware of it?
No.
Was Edmund aware of it? Your striking coach?
See, most people would be. That's crazy. Most people would be scared. They'd be like, "Hey, man, I can't take a hit in the head, man. I'm done." But for her to hide it, that could have been. She might be lucky she's still alive, man. Because I know when she was in the UFC, she took some big hits to the head. Yeah, man. See, that could have been catastrophic. She could have got hit in the head and just killed over right there in the octagon.
I didn't tell anybody. It was one of those things I just didn't want to face up to having any weakness in myself. And also Edmund would have made me stop. I didn't want to stop. I didn't want anyone to be making that decision for me. I didn't want to tell the company that I was having neurological symptoms, because then they wouldn't let me continue to fight. I didn't want those decisions to be taken out of my hands.
In your book, you talk about the relationship you had with Edmund, and it wasn't always great in terms of his approach to coaching. You talk about how he would physically strike you during training, but potentially even more severely, he would emotionally abuse you during training.
I mean, honestly,
why the fuck would she put up with that? She could probably whip that dude's ass. Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I wouldn't put up with that bullshit.
I can't think of a single coach that I had a great relationship with. This is a lot of the coaches were of that like Bella Caroli kind of generation of like, they thought that being abusive to the athletes is what gave them the best results. And that was kind of what was like in vogue at the time. So, and like that as an athlete, you're just kind of like, all right, well, this is what I have to deal with in order.
Yeah, trying to basically kind of like the old coaches like Tyson's coach and stuff. Try to make them tough. I get it.
In order to be the best. And
So he probably wasn't doing it on purpose. He just wanted her to try to be the best she could.
especially with like these sports where you have no other choice. Like this is the national team coach and you have to get their approval and put up their shit to be able to fight at this level. And so like Edmund was, I think, not as bad as previous coaches. So that's why I put up with a lot, because I felt like I at least had a say that I could talk back. The other coaches would just, like little Jimmy, my first coach, literally like dislocated my jaw as I was a little kid. I threw him once in front of everybody and laughed because I thought I was awesome. And he threw me on the benches on top of the table at everybody else's feet in front of all these people. Wow. And, Big Jim had like grabbed me by the throat before to like drive his point home that women can't defend themselves. And so this is like behavior that I'd been conditioned to tolerate since I was like a little girl. And Edmund was of that same like Eastern European kind of like school of thought of like, you have to be like really tough and in order to bring the best out of people. And
what does that do to your emotions though? Because we develop
yeah, I can understand that. I mean, because you're going to be you're going to war. When you go into the octagon, you're not going in there to play. People get hurt, and some people can get seriously hurt. So yeah, man, you got to be prepared. You got to be mentally tough. So I can understand that.
the age when most of us are developing our emotions, you're having yours suppressed and you're being made into this really quote unquote tough person.
What can I get you?
I want a job where I can help people.
I was
Man, all this shit I didn't know about her, man.
I think it
Had
kind of
no
taught me
idea.
from a young age to just like how to diffuse like coaches that were like getting out of hand, and to not, because if I stood up for myself, it would just make it worse. And so it just kind of like taught me to like, okay, I got to like get this person in a good mood all the time, or I have to like butter them up, or I have to like strategically find my way to like out of being berated or something like that. And so I think it's not so much one individual that's a huge problem. I think like the whole system is the problem, and that it really reinforces these like these power imbalances that are inevitably taken advantage of, that all these coaches have free reign of their little fiefdoms, and
Of their little fiefdoms.
a lot of these athletes don't have any other option. And so like I don't see how, like in school, you can have like a teacher, someone comes in to watch the teacher teach, to grade them on their teaching. Like nobody does this for coaching. And, so I would hear these stories about like these sumo coaches that like would kill their athletes training them. And I'd be like, yeah, I could see how that could happen. And it's just, it's not one person, it's not one sport, it's everywhere. And there's like, I can't say that I have all the answers for it, but I can say that like coaching in general creates a really like unhealthy power, like imbalance, that how I was able to take my relationship with my coach Edmund and take it from off the rails back on track is to have very distinct boundaries. A lot of times your coach is someone that is tough on you, but they're also like, they care about you. They're a parent, they're a brother, they're a coach too. But a lot of times it becomes like an overbearing family member and a coach, and you can't be both. That's why my mom didn't want to be my coach. She didn't want to have to be my mom and my coach, because being both of those at the same time is inevitably unhealthy.
Right.
And when we put boundaries in place of like, okay, this is what your job is, and you didn't.
But yeah, I can see where she's had multiple concussions because her talking out of the side of her mouth and then even looking at her eyes, you can tell her eyes are just kind of got that starry eyed look, like she's just staring through you. Like she's not really looking at you, she's just staring through you. Yeah, I didn't realize she had had that many concussions.
Not do anything outside of that. Then, training was better than ever, our relationship was better than ever. But I think like a lot of these lines and these boundaries get blurred, and they need to be very, very defined in order for it to work out.
And how were those lines blurred with your coach? He was crossing them in terms of the things he was able to say and do?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it was like he just wanted to know where I was all the time. And
What?
like I needed to be constantly available and stuff like that. And or else it would like end up turning into like a big argument or something like that. And I would just end up just trying to like do anything that I could to not get in an argument.
Why the fuck would he want to know where she's at all the time? That's crazy.
And but yeah, like I had to like make a rule at one point. I was like, you're not allowed to FaceTime me because I don't want you to just FaceTime me and know where I am at all times and what I'm doing, because like it's my fucking business, it's my privacy. And
Yeah, for
it was
real.
just, he was always trying to push that boundary. Now
He might have been trying to hook up with her, y'all. He might have been mad. He wanted to hook up with her. He wanted to marry her, man.
I was always pushing back and stuff like that. And but I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't do that bullshit either. So I get it. That's why I don't do me and relationships don't work out. Cause I'm a grown person, man. Ain't nobody gonna tell me what to do. Somebody telling me I gotta go do this or go do dishes, like it's like, bitch, I'll do them when I get ready. I'll do them when I want to. Go do something. Get a hobby. Why you up my ass all the time?
A lot of times I'm like, I just want to train. Like I would be just trying to like placate him, because if I like just stop talking to him in an argument, then it would end up leaking into training the next day. And so it just became like really like taxing of like my energy in general. But like, I mean, I can't really think of a single like coach relationship that I had that was like perfect. But it worked, That's the one problem that I'd always had, like debating. I'm like, well, it's working. I'm getting better. And so you would just put up with it because there was no perfect option out there.
You said at the very start that you were very, very close to your father. And then when your father passed, these other men that almost take on what someone could liken to a fatherly role are all coaches.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, they were all like, what was it in Kill Bill that he was talking about? That Bill lost his father early, so he collected father figures. Yeah. I collected them. None of them were as good as the original. But yeah, I think that constant need for, validation from a father figure was something that I was constantly like pursuing. But, that philosophy of coaching of, you see like the Russian figure skaters, the gymnasts that never smile because they've been like beaten into iron. That was basically the philosophy of all the coaches that I had. They would see someone like Bella Caroli and be like, oh my God, like he was their idol. And so they're all trying to like emulate that.
Beating the emotion out of you. This is something that I've always wondered about you, because you've always had a steely...
Yeah, you get knocked upside the head real good. That'll beat the emotion out of you. I don't care if you're happy, sad, depressed. You get hit over the head, all of a sudden you become very alert. Or you might just go black out, depending on if you get knocked out or not. But if you don't get knocked out, you become very alert. Suddenly, if you were depressed, all of a sudden you're not depressed anymore. You forget about all that bullshit.
Exterior, Really? No, you have, especially when in the fight in the UFC days. I watched some of your clips to remind myself of your fighting days before this, and that you came in with that face, that face, and just in interviews around that time and so on. And this is why I asked the question about emotion and how because you got into this at such a young age and you're dealing with these men who call you, you're lacking discipline if you miss weight and all of these kinds of things. You go through the loss of your father, the unprocessed grief. I'm wondering what happens to Ronda Rousey's relationship with her own emotions.
I mean, I was always really emotional, actually, as a fighter. I would cry on the mat all the time. All the time. I cried on the mat like every practice for years straight. And I would get yelled at for crying.
You get yelled at for crying?
I yelled at for crying, so I would cry, and then I would cry because I was crying, and I would cry because I was being yelled at for crying. And yeah, I just, but it wouldn't be because something hurt. It would be because, something, I was frustrated by something I got thrown, or I couldn't make something work that I was trying to make work, and I would cry out of frustration. And my mom said I had a tournament where it was full double elimination, so I ended up winning the tournament, but I lost a match earlier in the day. And every single match, I would come out crying, bow in, throw the other girl on her ass, beat her, bow out crying, come into the next match, still crying, beat the shit out of the other girl, bow out crying, the whole day crying until I beat everybody, beat the same girl that beat me twice in order to win, on top of the podium, number one, crying still.
Like, what the fuck is wrong with her? You could tell she must have had several concussions at this point. Because who the hell would be crying, beat the shit out of one person, come in crying, beat the shit out of the other? Man, I'd be happy. I'm winning. Who'd be crying?
Because I lost that first match earlier in the day. And so, yeah, I was always very emotional. I was extremely emotional as a fighter and in training and everything like that. And that was something I was constantly trying to battle, was if you get thrown in a tournament, don't start crying, because that was just something that would happen to me all the time. It's so funny if people think that I'm this emotionless robot, whatever I fight. It took a long time to be able to get there, to stop crying in the middle of a match.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dana says he's never going to allow women into the UFC to fight, but then Dana changes his mind, and he changes his mind because of you, effectively. So in September 2012, I remember it very fondly. I remember where I was when I watched.
See, that's how I remember her looking like. Like, she almost don't even look like the same person.
The first woman fight in the UFC.
Like, the facial
Dana
features
says
just
that
don't
he's
even look
signing
the same.
the first ever woman fighter in the UFC, a lady called Ronda Rousey, despite saying a year earlier that he wouldn't, but he called you a game changer. And so you did end up changing the game. And you became UFC champion between 2012 and 2015. You won 15 fights back to back. Most of them finished within seconds. And you stacked up a bunch of records, including the fastest ever win, fastest submission, fastest title defense turnaround. And you were voted the best female athlete of all time in a 2015 ESPN fan poll. And Fox Sports called you one of
And think about that. She did all that while she was suffering from multiple concussions. And that explains why she was finishing fights so early now. Because she said she had to finish them early because she couldn't afford to get hit, period. Which makes sense. But then I remember the first loss she had, though, that was a bad one. I think she got kicked right in the head. And it was soon after that, I think she retired, or left the UFC at least, and went to the WWE.
the defining athletes of the 21st century. Part of that sort of 15 fights back to back was, when I think about that period, is the amount of times you were fighting was really unusual. You're fighting, I think there were sometimes you're fighting 3 times in 9 months, which is kind of unheard of for anyone in the UFC. I mean, there's fighters today that seem to just fight once a year. Why were you doing that? Why were you fighting so frequently?
I was fighting that frequently because that's how often Dana called.
Hey, what's up, Bird?
And I told him
Appreciate you
that,
stopping in, man.
no, if you sign me, I will be there to fight whenever you need me. And I never said no. And so anytime that I got an offer, or anytime one of the guys got hurt or fell out, I was always the one that would fill in. And if there was I always fought on February's and August's and November's, the worst times of the years to fight, because that's when they needed somebody to come in and pick up the numbers. So I wasn't somebody holding out to only fight on the 4th of July card or New Year's card, which are the best, viewer, the highest viewed of the year. I would do whatever was best for the company, because that's what I promised, the role that I would fulfill. That was the deal that I made when I came in. And, nobody else has to do that. But I felt like I I owed it to Dana. I promised him I would be there anytime that he needed me, and I was.
If you could go back and give yourself advice on that day when you signed your UFC contract now, if you could time travel back to that Rhonda and give her a little bit of advice, whisper in her ear, what would you say?
I wouldn't change anything.
You wouldn't change anything?
Time travel's not possible, and I led myself to where I am now, and I'm happy with where I'm at. So I wouldn't fuck with it.
There you go.
When you got the news that you were going to be signing for the UFC as the first ever woman to...
That's what I say, man. You know, people always say, well, do you ever regret anything in your past? It's like, no, not really. Because everything that's happened to me in my past has formed me into who I am today. And it's very true. The longer you live, the more shit you go through. You know, you become wiser, and that's just how you learn, man. Bad shit happens to everybody, but I think when bad shit happens, it's always a learning moment, and you never forget it, especially if it's something really bad that happens. You know, you remember it, you never forget it. You say, I'm never going to do that again. Yeah.
fight in the UFC. How did that feel?
Validating.
Really?
Yeah, and I was just really excited. I just felt like I was in on a secret that the whole world didn't know. And they were just starting to find out.
And throughout that period, while you're the UFC champion, you take up acting and you feature in a couple of films like The Fast and Furious, The Expendables, etc. Was that something that you always had planned, or is that something that just arose as an opportunity?
The movie stuff just kind of arose as an opportunity. But, you know, once it became a possibility, I was like, of course I could be the next Bruce Lee, you know? Of course I could do great at this. And I felt like I was a good, like, performer and, you know, great physical performer as well. And I could combine the two in a way that nobody else could. So I went after it with the same kind of confidence I went after everything.
On the 14th of November 2015, you had UFC 193, where you were lined up to fight Holly Holmes in Melbourne, Australia. I remember where I was when that fight happened. I didn't miss many UFC fights, and I still don't miss many, but it was a really sort of a huge turning point for a number of reasons. You were indestructible, basically. That's how the whole UFC community and I think the fan base saw you. But in that moment, as you said earlier on, there was an initial contact, and I watched the clip again earlier on. There's an initial contact. I think it was with Holly Holmes' elbow, if I remember correctly. And then you talked about having this sort of issue with depth perception because of that initial contact, and that's actually what I see in that clip. I see from that first sort of strike that there is an issue with kind of understanding where Holly is, and that fight ends in a head kick. From that moment when leave the
that's the one I was thinking about. Yeah, that's when she got kicked in the head, and then I think she knew then that she had to get out of there, that she needed to stop because she was already having too many problems. But she was trying to mask it as long as she could. But then she went to the WWE. I figured that would have been a good place for her, but I guess still, even with all that, you know, throwing each other and whatever, you know, that still fucked up her head, I guess.
octagon. How does your life and perception of everything change? Because it's interesting the way that you were built up to that. You were I was going to say the top of the mountain. You're up in the clouds at that point. Like it was framed to everyone that you were fundamentally indestructible. You know, and that's kind of what the marketing machine does. It does to everyone. They're fundamentally indestructible, but to everyone, from Muhammad Ali to my friend Israel in the UFC, everyone has their day where we find out that everyone is a human being to some degree. From the moment you leave the UFC, what is life like from that point onwards when you get back into the medical room?
Extremely depressing. You know, that was my whole identity. It was being champion and undefeated, and it's just like soul crushing. It really was. I was just kind of like forced to face music before I was ready to, and I knew that it was going to catch up to me at some point. But I was more, I think, upset that there were so many people out there that were like reveling in it. And
Well, yeah, because everybody likes to go for the underdog, you know? She was undefeated at that point. So, yeah, everybody likes to see the underdog win. So I can understand that. But then again, if you were the other girl that beat her for the first time, would you feel good knowing that you didn't beat her, Ronda Rousey, in her prime? That she was battling with multiple concussions and wasn't really all right in the head? I don't know.
I don't know. It just felt so like unjust in a way because I just felt like it was just, there's so much of it just wasn't my fault, you know? I just couldn't, like, my brain just couldn't take what I asked of it anymore. And my body took as much as it could until it literally broke. And I gave everybody everything that I had. And that wasn't enough for them. They hated me for not having more.
Wow.
So, I mean, it was tough. It was, I saw.
Yeah, fuck those people. That's what I say. Fuck them. Because it don't matter. You know, it's your body. You know how you feel. The only reason they probably wanted her to keep going is because they were probably making money off of her. It's the only reason they probably wanted her to keep going. But yeah, fuck them. Who cares?
A whole bunch of people that I thought were friends just, you know, turn on me. And it was really eye-opening.
Yeah, exactly. See, when you're on top and everything's good, your friends will be around. But when you're down and out, that's when you find out who your friends really are. Because they want to hang around when you're on top of the world, you're making them money. But that's why they want her to keep going. They're like, fuck your concussions. Who cares about your concussions? You're making us money. Yeah. So I can see that. That's why I don't have very many friends because half of them you can't depend on them. Half of them ain't loyal, honestly. Soon as and a lot of them, if they could backstab you at any point, they will. Not saying they all will, but big majority.
In a way, though, you know, to who true friends are and what true happiness is, and that outward validation wasn't it. And so I think maybe he might have saved me in a way from going down the path of trying to like chase that high of everybody's, you know, approval forever. But so I guess it was liberating in a way in the long run.
Yeah, that will drive you fucking nuts, man. You know, you can't be looking for outside approval. You can't be looking for everybody else's approval because you're never going to make everybody happy. You're never going to make everybody agree on the same things you agree on. You just live your life, man, and the people that want to be there will be there. And if they don't want to be there, don't make them. I don't want anybody around me don't want to be around. You know?
Run.
If I was a fly on the wall that night when you left that octagon, what would I have seen?
A lot of crying. You know, I had to get my lip sewed up, the muscle underneath, and then the skin. I remember I was so out of it that I like bit off a chunk of my lip and spit it out like it was like a piece of like, you know, like a chapped lip. Like that's how out of it I was. I was biting and chewing, like spitting out chunks of like the flesh in my lip. And people judging me for the decisions I was making while in that state, I think is what bothered me the most. It wasn't so much that I lost, it was just that people thought that I didn't know how to fight. And, you know, if I was at my full capacity, I don't think anyone could ever beat me, but I just, you know, I was spent. I was running on fumes for so long that I didn't have any fumes left. And,
dang.
And the moment that I ran out of fumes was, you know, broadcast live to billions of people everywhere who all had their own assumptions about it, and none of them are right. And I felt like I couldn't speak up or say anything. And honestly, like whoever I tried to talk to, they didn't care about helping me communicate what I was trying to communicate. They just cared about getting as many clicks as possible, so I couldn't trust
Yep.
anyone to speak through. So I feel like this book was the only way that I could really communicate everything that I had been holding on to for years. Because, I mean, yeah, it was really tough, but I literally fought until I couldn't fight anymore.
Yeah, you can tell her brain just ain't firing on all cylinders. See what I mean about how like she's staring, but she looks like she's not even looking at it. She just looks like she's staring off into space. So you could definitely tell all them concussions and blows to the head have really messed her up.
And maybe that's not enough for a lot of people, but I feel like I created the most efficient fighting style that ever created that's ever existed. And I had to realize that only people that are truly great can recognize greatness. I wanted to be so great that even an idiot couldn't deny it. But then I realized after going into pro wrestling that retiring undefeated and taking the equity that I had with me wouldn't have been what was best for the sport. Even though I know that I'm better than all these girls and by a fucking long shot, and I always will be.
Damn.
Taking my equity away from me so
Talk about confidence, boy.
that everybody knows that would actually tarnish my legacy. It wouldn't make everybody take the women after me seriously. And so it had to happen for the betterment of the sport. But, sometimes it still stings a little bit that it's, I'm not recognized as the greatest ever when I know I am. But my mom said all the time, really quick, this picture here, that she didn't care if everybody knew she was the best in the world.
Yeah, it should be worse, man. She's taken way too many concussions, you can tell. Because she's been she talks out of the side of her mouth occasionally. She freaking, her eyes, she looks like she's just staring off into space a lot. So yeah, all them head hits have really, really screwed her up.
Cared if she knew. She didn't care that nobody knew who was the first American world champion of judo back in 1984. It was important to her. And I think like somewhere along the way, it started to matter more what other people thought than what I thought. And so I think being forced back to that was actually the best thing that could have happened to me.
I don't think people realize the extent of, they see it as kind of just a game. Fighting, they see it as some kind of game that they're watching, like they're playing on the Xbox or PlayStation. But I don't think they understand the extent of the devastation.
20-year-old born without a brain? No, I haven't heard about that. Born without a brain. Dang. A 20-year-old born without a brain? Is that a real thing?
Station on a human level that you kind of experience after that loss. And I think until you did that interview with Ellen, where you revealed that you'd gone back to your changing room and you had this sort of suicidal ideation.
See, that's what I remember her looking like. She doesn't look like the same person. She don't even look like the same person. Like when you look at that picture of her and then when you see her now, it looks like a totally different person.
About the future, most people didn't realize the extent of it until then. Did you literally have suicidal ideation in the days and hours following the fight?
No, it was basically like instantly when I came backstage.
See, it doesn't even look like the same person.
But, suicide is the kind of thing that becomes more prevalent if, it's in your family. And I've literally had 2 generations of suicide ahead of me. It's just something that it's always an option in your mind once it's shown
Alex
to
Simpson?
you.
I'll have to check that out after this stream, man.
But I think that
Or maybe I'll even do a stream
with
on it.
Trav then, my husband now, that I just didn't want to
See, look at that picture. Like she looked like she had like a glow in her eyes. She looked like she was alive. Now she just looks like Now she just looks like she's starry-eyed. She's not quite all there. She's not firing on all cylinders. She's talking out the side of her mouth. Damn, man, UFC screwed her up.
Take the pain that
Well, I can't say the UFC because she was taking hits even before then, but all them hits to the head have really. Yeah, she does, man. And it was all it's just all the hits she's taken to the head over the years. It's caught up
I
with her.
had in me and give it to him, because that's how I experienced suicide was like, okay, it's, you get to relieve yourself of that pain, but you pass it on to everybody else. And but my dad was dying anyway. He wouldn't have been able to prevent his death, and he was, physically suffering every day. And so I understand that. And I didn't feel like I had the same kind of justification that I wasn't going to die anyway. So I was gonna live for him and for my family, so that they wouldn't have to take the pain that I was feeling onto them.
Mm.
Was that the hardest moment in your professional career?
Professionally, yeah.
Was it the hardest moment in your personal life?
No,
Yeah, that would probably, I could understand that would have to be the hardest for her because that's all she's known since she was a kid was fighting, being in jiu-jitsu and UFC, and then to have to admit to yourself, hey, I can't, my head's fucked up. I mean, when she's at the point where she's in the UFC and she's in there fighting and her depth perception is fucked up. She said her depth perception was so screwed up, she couldn't tell how far the other person was. So she would just try to keep going at him. That's crazy.
losing my dad was worse.
You went on to fight Amanda Nunes at UFC 207 in 2016, and the fight ends again. And after this, you come to the decision that your time at the UFC is over, and you decide to move on to the WWE. There's a sort of a 2-year gap, I believe, about a 1-year gap between the Nunes fight and the WWE announcement.
Yeah.
What happened in your life in that gap?
I was mostly just being sad. I was just like sad and high and playing video games and eating crepes. I mean, everybody wants to rush you through grief.
Yo, fellow gamer. Hey, who would ever thought Ronda Rousey was a gamer? Hey, never would have thought of that. She's a gamer and beat your ass too.
Things, but I think it's important. And so I took that time to myself. I was also just so worn out from, like I said, running on fumes for years on end, and like literally dragging myself out of bed every morning and like having to dig deep every second of the day, that I just, wanted to dig deep and just disappear. I had, paparazzi and all kinds of crazy shit happening at the time. And I just like,
See, that's where some people, they got to be careful because if you don't like to be around a lot of people, a lot of crowds, they're like, oh, I want to be famous one day. I want to become a famous YouTuber, or I want to become a celebrity, or I want to become a famous streamer. Okay, that's all well and good, but you got to take the bad with the good. The good part is you could possibly make a lot of money. The bad part is you're going to have people following you around constantly everywhere you go. You used to be able to go to the mall. Now you can't go to the mall without security. Somebody might try to come up and fucking kill you. So you got to take the bad with the good.
didn't want to be famous anymore. So it was always more of a tool than a goal. And now that.
And you know how many people I've heard say that? They wanted to be famous, but then once they became famous, they're just like, I don't want to be famous anymore. I don't want people outside of my house all the time trying to take pictures of me. I can't even go to my freaking car to go down the street to go grocery shopping.
I didn't have fights to promote. I didn't need it anymore, but I guess it wasn't done with me. So I kind of had to like disappear for a while to be left alone.
Were you doing anything professionally during that period? Or were you just at home?
I mean, I Oh, I was just at home. I feel like I just needed to not give anymore. I don't think anyone can understand how exhausted I was and how much it had been asked of me for so long that I just needed to rest. I needed to mentally and
She's fucking burnt out. I mean, she's been doing martial arts since she was a kid. And then dealing with the concussions, the multiple concussions. And then that last fight where she got hit in the head. And yeah, man, she was just done. And she probably knew it. Like she was trying to ride that train as long as she could. And then she just couldn't ride it no more.
physically rest. And but people that have, dug deep enough to make it to 2 Olympics and win 15 fights in a row, not a lot of people understand how much effort that takes. And just sounds like numbers when you say it, but when you live it, it's just like I literally had nothing left in me. I could barely get out of bed. So,
Damn.
I mean, it's not the kind of like tired that you can take a long sleep from and wake up refreshed, Like it's like the kind of tired that takes like a year to recover from.
Is that depression in your mind?
Yes, so you could you could call it depression. But I didn't see anyone get diagnosed.
Your husband was there throughout that period with you?
Yeah, he was there the whole time. He was the one supplying the crepes. Yeah, he was amazing. He really was, helped drag me out of my own hole. And I'm very much like, like a golem cave creature in general. Like I just will like not leave my little den. But he's like very much a social butterfly, and he would make sure that like, okay, you need to go out and interact with human beings. And I'm like, no, which, is.
Dude, that's me, man. Like, I don't have a problem socializing. Like, I can socialize in a crowd, but I'd rather just fucking be home by myself. When I was younger, I could I could be around people, go to concerts and shit, but now that I'm older, it's like, I just like being by myself, man. I love the peace. I love being able to do what I want to do when I want to do it. I love not having somebody up my ass all the time. It's just, I don't know, man. I love the peace. Being able to do what I want to do when I want to do it.
Always kind of been how I was. I always struggled socially and stuff like that. Which is why I got into judo, was to be able to like socialize and just be able to talk and communicate. And so I just kind of reverted back to like my hermit tendencies. And yeah, Trav literally had to like drag me out of my hole. And I'm glad he did. But yeah, I would easily slide back into the Misty Mountains anytime if I was allowed.
Did he understand what you were going through psychologically in that period? Were you able to communicate it to him?
I think he understood to an extent. Like he had a different kind of incredible story where he started fighting at 26 and then was the number one contender at the UFC in as much time as it took me to be the number one contender in the UFC. So he was like incredibly naturally talented, but he hadn't been, pursuing a goal of athletic greatness since he was 6, the way that I had. And so just the disappointment of, never winning an Olympic gold medal and never being able to retire undefeated, and those kind of like lifelong goals. I don't think a lot of.
Well, you can tell that she's been reclused for a while too, because she used to have a tan on her, and now she ain't got a tan, man. She's white as a ghost.
People understand that, but he also was still like so supportive and there for me, and he never got fed up with me moping around and literally crying over like eggs if I like broke the yolk and be like, I can't even make you eggs, and like just being like that for like over a year and stuff. And he's just such incredible love and patience, and was just like there for me all the time, and just like bring me in and hold me when I needed it. Even if he didn't like understand why I was so sad, he was like there for it anyway. So yeah, he's the best.
Honestly, Burge, I don't know if she does have any kids. I don't think she does.
Best thing that ever happened to me. I love him so much. But yeah, he might not have understood it so much, but he was still there for me. You knew you were going to get me at some point. I told you I'm emotional.
She's all
No,
fucked up now.
It's often in those moments, our hardest moments, that we realize, as you said earlier, who we've got around us, but also the value of certain people in our lives. I think in my hardest times of my life, that's following those times is when I realized who really, really mattered. And my partner in particular, through my hardest moments, you go through the dark canyon of these tough times in life, and you emerge, that person walked through it with you, and you go, fucking hell, this person, now I understand how much they mean to me. Sometimes it takes that to understand what someone means to you. And it certainly sounds like that moment crystallized what Travis means to you in your life as well.
Yeah, I think when we first got together, we went through so much stuff that would have driven anybody else apart, but it really just brought the two of us closer together. And
Good morning, everybody.
Oh,
We are here to
stupid
discuss
ads.
the so you sit.
I'm so glad that we were
There we go.
with each other when we were going through the hardest times, that we didn't have to go through it alone.
Where does the WWE come in? So that's ultimately what sort of, I guess, pulled you out of your...
Look, I wanted to hear this whole thing, but this is the part where I really wanted to hear, because I'm really interested to see what she's got to say about WWE, because she didn't stay over there very long. I mean, she was huge over there too, but she didn't hang around too long.
little cave there, but...
Yeah,
She just disappeared.
I had to get out of the cave and in front of like a crowd of thousands of people live, of course,
Yeah.
which is really funny because I really don't like it. I don't like being in front of crowds and a bunch of people, and I hate public speaking. But I just love the stuff that I get to do while doing it, you know? But yeah, I kind of, my friends, the four horsewomen, Shayna, Jessamine, and Marina, that were like friends that I made. I mean, I knew Marina back from judo, and I met Shayna and Jessamine through MMA, and like we really became like really close-knit group. And, you know, for me, and for how hard it was for me to like socialize and make friends, like these were like my girls, you know? And they all started getting into pro wrestling, and I just started doing it for fun, and it was just so fun. And like, it wasn't a competition. It was everyone working together to try and do something great together. And so it reminded me more of like, you know, like,
I wonder though if she had to quit the WWE too because of her multiple concussions she already had. I think she thought that maybe she could have done that and not, get hurt, but probably figured out that she still couldn't do that either.
in action movies and doing fight choreography, except for it was kind of like in its purest form, where you have to tell the story. Like in the movie, you have like the movie part, and then there's a fight, and then the story. And like usually the fight is like separate from that. And I feel like pro wrestling is like the purest form of combat storytelling, because you can only tell the story through the combat. I was just fascinated with that, especially, want to be Bruce Lee. And it became that thing that like I started to fixate on and wanted to be better and better at it, and just would go into training and lose track of time and realize that I'd been going for 5 hours, kind of a thing. And I love that feeling of being lost in something. To my friend, I was telling somebody the other day, like, passion is my passion. I just love to be passionate about things. And, I guess that flow state is fun. And I just love being in it. And then I started just training for fun, and then ended up, getting... I didn't really get an opportunity to go to WWE. I was kind of like, hey guys, I want to do this. And then they were like, okay. Then it just kind of snowballed into, because at first I was like, okay, I want to have a baby soon, and it'd be kind of cool to go and do some pro.
Maybe she did have a kid. I don't know. I didn't think she had any kids. Maybe she does now.
For a couple months before I go and have my baby, and then it just kind of like snowballed into this whole beast and this whole like other life that I didn't know that I was going to have. But it was very much like like a calling much more than a pursuit, if that made sense, you know?
Once upon a time, if you had a business idea, it was
All right,
exceptionally...
let's skip through this. We don't need to hear this.
One of the things that surprised me, and again, it's because if we only get to see this sort of 2D representation of someone on a screen, whether they're through your wrestling career or your UFC career, which is kind of like all of it's kind of like acting. The press conferences, the bravado, is in your book. You talk about how comments online and newspaper comments and stuff would get to you.
I mean, you know, it starts off like,
Yeah, you can't let that shit get to you. If you're going to be online, if you're going to be a streamer or you're going to be on YouTube or anything like that, you can't let the comments get to you, man, because you're always going to have little dickheads that are, you know, saying shit that they would never say to you in front of your face. You're always going to have those people, man. You just got to take them comments with a grain of salt and just keep going.
that. But yeah, at first, you know, when everything's going great, it was like I would look at my comments like the morning newspaper. I'd wake up in the morning and look at my comments. I would look at my tag photos, and it's so unhealthy. But after my first launch,
you don't want to do that. If you post in YouTube videos, don't go look at your comments. Don't look at any of that shit. Just post the videos and don't even look at them. Just pretend they're not even there. Because you start reading the comments and shit, and some of that shit will get to you. And then you might end up saying something you regret.
I was like, quit cold turkey, which I feel like that was one thing that I needed to do, was to like not constantly need that outside validation and stuff like that, especially from the internet and social media and stuff. And I was kind of like spiraling in a way, and kind of like giving that way too much stock in my like emotional, you know, state and stuff like that. And
yeah, that's not
and then
healthy
pro
at
wrestling,
all.
you're literally in front of a crowd that is like the embodiment of a comment section in front of yourself.
Yeah.
You know, that's also why I really enjoyed being a heel, which I, you know, wish they would have let me be a heel more often, because that's where I feel like I was happiest, when I wasn't trying to placate to the crowd, purposely trying to, you know, piss them off and get a rise out of them, and not trying to.
That'd be me too. I want to be the bad guy, man. I don't want to be the good dude. Yeah, let's make the crowd pissed off at me. Yeah, that would be the role I'd want to play.
Constantly, you know, pander.
I was surprised to hear about the WWE, that they kind of rewrite the script last minute, and that it's not... I don't know, you think of such a big business, you imagine they got script writers and the scripts are written
You would
years
think
ago.
it wouldn't be an absolute clusterfuck shit show, and you would be wrong.
Wow.
Yeah. It was, and it's so needlessly dangerous. Like, no one can... Like, a lot of times people can't rehearse. Things are changed last minute. A lot of times you see them outside, they're performing, they've only talked about it, and they're doing it for the first time. So a lot of these injuries happen because people just weren't able to rehearse. And the company doesn't give a shit because we're all expendable to them.
Could you imagine? You ever watch? I know we've all seen pro wrestling, man. Could you imagine them telling you how this is supposed to go, and you don't even get a chance to rehearse? Like, you're just doing this shit on the fly? That's crazy.
Did you feel expendable to the UFC? To the WWE?
Yes. Yeah. I think we all did.
Uh-oh, Vince McMahon, you in trouble. Vince McMahon's in trouble.
And they made sure to make us feel that way.
Wow. Well, they made sure to make you feel that way?
Yeah.
So that you wouldn't get above your station or something, or so that you would just do whatever you're told?
Just do whatever you're told. Just take it.
And you're all contractors at the WWE as well, so you're not employees. You have to pay for your own healthcare and all these kinds of things, from what I read in your book.
Yep.
Which is pretty crazy. I mean, that would never be...
What? No fucking way. The billions of dollars that the WWE makes, and they got to pay for their own health care? And they're out there risking their necks and their backs doing all them flips and throws and shit? I got to pay for my own health care? What?
Allowed in where I'm from, in the UK. and it's sort of Vince McMahon's kingdom.
Yeah. Well, I mean, supposedly he's out now because they, caught him paying company funds so he can shit on some girl's head in the office and, do a threesome with her with Johnny Laurinaitis. But his cronies are still there.
Oh, yo. That's great. Oh my gosh. Yeah, he's still there, so they can three chicks that might have like laryngitis or something with threesome with a chick. That's crazy.
So when that stuff started coming out and Vince was gone before, he was still basically just calling it in and running the company. And but yeah, like Bruce Pritchard, who's there now, who's still like the head of creative or whatever title they gave him, is basically just taking orders from Vince and still running the company through him. And so
Wow.
when Vince was
I remember when they did that too. When they were nailing him for supposedly paying one of the girls their money, and they're doing favors for him and shit. Like special favors. Yeah. Okay.
resigned formally because of all these like sexual allegations and stuff that were coming out, he was still running the company informally, and I think he still is to this day.
You don't have a whole lot of nice things to say about these people.
I mean, depends on who. The girls in the locker room, I absolutely love them.
The people at the top running it.
Yeah, I mean, Steph and Triple H, I think they're honestly doing their best. But I mean, I think that Vince McMahon just created a fundamentally sick environment. And I think if Ari is going to be able, if Ari Emanuel, who bought it out from WME, is going to be able to actually make this multi-billion-dollar dysfunctional organization into one that functions, he's got to clean out all of Vince's cronies. He's got to completely clean house and remove Vince's influence completely.
Dang, she throwing Vince under the bus. Man. Shit, Vince might see this. He might go for a lawsuit. Who the hell knows? But I mean, she's probably telling the truth, so what could he do?
But, no one's asking me. But that's just what I experienced when Vince was gone. He was still running the show through, people that he'd hired in the past. Bruce Pritchard being number one of them.
Bruce Pritchard's still there, I believe.
Yeah, John Laurinaitis took he was cut loose because he got named specifically in the scandal. But yeah, Bruce Pritchard is literally, I'd never heard him say a single.
Man, with all them girls they had wrestling and shit, that they were having some funny games in the back rooms and shit. They were doing crazy stuff.
One of his own opinions. He'd only say that Vince says this, Vince says that, Vince says this, Vince says this, Vince. And so he's literally just like, I called him Vince's avatar. That's basically what he is.
You returned to the UFC after you left in 2019. You were there from 2017 to 2019. And
yeah, she was only there for a couple of years.
2017 is when you got married with Travis. I couldn't figure out from the dates. I don't think the date was in your book, but at some point during this journey, you start trying to have children. Mm-hmm. Something I'm trying now with my partner. I'm on that process as well. And you talk in the book about a really...
Don't do it. It's a trap. Don't do it. It's a trap. Don't have kids. Look, I love my daughter, man, but no, I would never have any more kids. No. Don't do it. It's a trap.
A heartbreaking incident where you're filming a TV show with 911, the TV show 911, and there was a fight scenes and various stunts in that movie, and a day after that, you suffered a miscarriage.
Yeah, I found out I was pregnant right before the show started filming, and then my finger got chopped off from a boat door falling on it, and but we went and checked out, and there's the baby seemed just fine, but then I miscarried a couple weeks later, so I just kind of always felt like that was my fault, that I wanted to keep doing dangerous stuff while I was pregnant because I thought it made me cool. And then
I know this is not going to be very popular for those watching, but I'm going to say it anyways. I think if you have a miscarriage, that might be God trying to tell you that you might be a bad parent. Just something to think about. That's what I've always thought. I know that's so wrong. But hey, it is what it is. She shouldn't have kids at this point. Yeah. I don't think she should either. I don't know how old she is now, though. That's the thing. Maybe that's why she looks this way now. Maybe she's like in that. That's what I think. Honestly, I really do believe that, man. Like, I've always thought that. I said, if somebody has a miscarriage, maybe that's God's way of telling them they would be a bad parent. Actually, I mean, we don't know, you know? Could be. But yeah, I don't. Maybe that's why she looks the way she is now. Maybe she's like in that, what would you call it? That post stage. She's 38. Oh, she's 38. Well, um, yeah, she waited way too long to have kids. If she was gonna have kids, she should have done that by 30. Oh boy. Maybe that's why she looks the way she is now. Maybe she's like in that post I know she's had all the concussions, but maybe she's like in that post stage. What the hell do they call it? Menopause. Yeah, maybe she's fixing to hit that. Oh boy.
and then I was just like depressed and like drinking and smoking and not taking care of myself. And then I got pregnant right away again. And then we never even saw a heartbeat that time, but I wasn't expecting anything more because I just wasn't taking care of myself.
So you had 2 miscarriages.
Oh. Oh. I'm sorry. I shouldn't be laughing. But this is okay. Now for sure. If you have one miscarriage and then you have a second miscarriage, then I think God is definitely telling you you might be a bad parent. That is not. Oh boy.
2 miscarriages, yeah.
Two
And then I went through
miscarriages.
IVF, 4 cycles of IVF to be able to get 8 embryos because we wanted to have like 3 or 4 kids. And the first one that we used actually worked. That's Laakea, my daughter now. But yeah.
Okay, so she's got a daughter now. So, but she had to go. She had to do it through the what do they call that? I don't even know what they call it. The IDF. She looks a little under the influence. She does kind of look a little under the influence. She does.
We're in the process of doing it right now, and I just got news yesterday that our first cycle didn't work. So.
Oh no. Okay, ladies, if you're watching, let this be a lesson, okay? This is a perfect lesson. Going after your career is great if that's what you want to do. But do understand you do have a time window of when you can have kids. If you want to have kids, you got a specific window. You're not like dudes. Dudes, they can knock anybody up anytime, anywhere, any place, you name it. Ladies, you got a time window. You don't hit that time window, and I'm wondering if it's really the concussions that's got her messed up, or if it's really because she's not able to have the kids. They wanted 3 or 4. Sounds like she got 1, but then they just did the IDF again, and sounds like the second one isn't going.
It's tough. Anyone going through is tough, and like people just don't talk about it. But it's hard because you have like so much hope every time, and yeah, I don't know. I'll just have to wait till the end of this book tour to try again. But I was really hoping to be pregnant today. But it's the kind of thing that like nobody talks about. So And so many women think they're going through it alone.
But dang, dude, she shouldn't have waited so long. Why you wait until you're in your mid-30s to start trying to have kids? I mean, come on. Look, I feel bad for her, okay? I do, but come on. You know what? Maybe it wasn't even the concussions. Maybe it's because of this kid thing. And then with her drinking and smoking, that don't help. I didn't even know she drank or smoked.
But it's really, really common. But it's really hard when things don't work out.
So many women and couples are going through this. And as you say, it's not something we talk about because the mixture of feelings surrounding it are complex, to say the least.
Yeah. I think, like, no one wants to burden anybody else with what they're going through, but a lot of times you're not burdening other people. You're, I don't know if it's like camaraderie, but you're offering something to other people that are going through the same thing. And a lot of times it's like a woman, you can feel like it's, your fault, but, your peak productive years are your peak athletic years. So I decided to use those.
See? This is exactly what I said. You got to make a choice, man. If you want to have kids, you got a window. And she chose to be, to do her career thing, man, which I get it, but you can't have the best of both worlds, man. So that's just something I don't know, man. That's a tough pill to swallow, man.
On my career, and thankfully I was able to get a bunch of embryos when I was young, and hopefully we'll be able to still have a couple more kids. But I got my Poe and I got my boys, so I got a lot more than a lot of people that have been through it. But
So you've got 3 kids in total. 2 of them are from.
Damn, she's got 3. And she wants more? What? What the hell? I got 1 and I don't want no more. 1 is enough for me. Damn it, I need to get me some more water. She's got 3 and she wants more. Are you kidding me? I would be that would drive me crazy.
Travis's previous relationship with his previous partner, where you're now the stepmother and you've had a daughter of your own.
Yeah.
People don't understand the.
Oh, okay, never mind. I stand corrected. She has a daughter of her own, and then she's like the stepmom to 2 kids from his previous relationship. I stand corrected. She has 1 as of right now, but she wants more.
People that have gone through this and they understand, although because no one's talking about it, they've not had their feelings echoed by someone publicly before. And then there's this other group of people that have never been through this sort of IVF journey of success, failure, success, failure, etc. For those people that have never experienced it, what is that like? What is the complexity of the emotions that you experience and thoughts?
It's just a grind. It's a grind, and it's really hard on you mentally and physically, your body. And this last cycle, I wasn't allowed to work out or anything for weeks on end. And so it's like my first time around when I had to do 4 cycles in a row, and then the transfer cycle, I mean, I was just not recognizable physically. And
But you would think. I'm sorry. I know she had 1, and I know she wants 3 or 4. But you would think, you can't have them naturally, and then you've tried twice to have an egg put in you, and that didn't work. At what point do you say to yourself, "Okay, well, my time's up. It's game over." Or like Bird said, get a surrogate mother. But still, I don't know. I wouldn't. I'm not female, so obviously my opinion don't mean shit. But if I was in her position, I'd just face facts, man. I'd just be like, you know what? I give up. I got one. I'm good.
And just mentally so worn out. You're on all these kind of hormones and you're going through this like emotional roller coaster and stuff. And you can't really talk about it, you know? Yeah, sometimes like I would, you know, have just people that are like
I'm only laughing, Burge, because when you said adopt, it reminded me of a stream I did a couple days ago. It had South Park in it, and they had this Ethiopian kid. His name was Starvin' Marvin. Ah, oh my gosh, Starvin' Marvin. Yeah, she could adopt Starvin' Marvin.
psychotic trolls that like try and follow me around online and like berate me about these kind of things about like at the time I like not having a kid when I was trying and stuff like that. And that's I guess the what you have to live with being a public figure, but and you're not supposed to say anything about it because how dare you not be grateful for your good fortune. But man, it sucks when you're going through it and you feel like, you know, the world is also still looking over your shoulder and you're not living up to, you know, your own expectations. I don't know.
Forget what everybody else thinks.
I don't know if there's a feminine word for emasculating, but is you know, effeminating.
Yeah,
it feels like if you can't naturally have a baby, like I mean, my doctor was like, if you stop smoking and drinking, you can have a baby. Like, you know, smoke a bunch of weed and drinking, you can naturally have a baby. But because
I didn't know she did this, yo. With her being in the UFC and the WWE, I didn't know she smoked and drank. I had no idea. And she's smoking weed. No wonder why you can't have kids.
we wanted to have so many, he was like, you should get all your embryos now. So when you're older, you can take your time and do it. And so it's just like, yeah, it's tough because as a woman, you have to choose. Am I going to go for a career during my peak years or am I going to like go for kids? And so, you know,
Yeah,
luckily,
you gotta
science
choose.
makes it so you can have both, but it doesn't make it easy.
This has been very front of mind for me because I'm trying now. And I've actually sat here yesterday with two different fertility doctors, because I really wanted to understand the whole process and understand, because, you know, I think people typically think that fertility is a female thing, but the fertility doctors told me quite clearly that when they go through the IVF rounds, it's 50-50 typically as to why sort of a baby isn't conceived. It's 50% of the time it's the man, 50% of the time it's the woman. And so I'm really grateful that you share that, because lots of people are struggling, and increasingly the IVF clinics, I think off the top of my head,
Oh my gosh. Verge, when you said that, I did not read that correctly at all. I did not read that correctly at all. When I seen it, all I seen was also she smokes weed, which clinically proven that eats your. I didn't see brain. I thought it said dick. It's proven that it eats your dick. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's probably another reason why her brain is fried too.
grown 90% in popularity over the last couple of years, and because we're having our careers are being extended further, and a variety of other things, but sperm counts are dropping, testosterone levels are dropping. It's only
It
going to
was
get more
way out
common.
left field, man.
Yeah. And one thing I will say that's great about it is because I did go through two pregnancies that, you know, my doctor told me it was probably because it wasn't because you chopped your finger off. It wasn't because if you were drinking or smoking, like it was because they're genetically not conducive to life. And so the great thing with IVF is you get these embryos and you can have them tested first, and then you don't have to make a decision at 20 weeks along of like, oh, your baby has this kind of, you know, disorder, malformality, and you have to make that decision. And so you know that they're healthy going into it. But then when you put all that effort into it and you finally do it and then it doesn't work out, I mean, that's crushing in itself too, you know? So it's tough. I mean, science is amazing, but it is a really difficult process to go through.
Where does your happiness come from these days? You've had a real sort of
Does sound like a quack, doesn't it? Yeah, who's this doctor saying? Yeah, I don't think it's the drinking and smoking weed. Yeah, that's not causing it at all. It's something else, but it definitely ain't that.
a pivot in terms of where you look for happiness over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, my happiness is every day with my family. That's what it is, and I'm so lucky that I get to be like, you know, retired in my mid-30s and be able to spend like all my time with my husband and my kids, and like to be there for them.
Yeah, see, I mean, why isn't she grateful for that? You know how many people would love to be able to retire in their 30s? I mean, because between the UFC and the WWE, she probably made easily a couple million, probably several million. So be grateful for that. You know, he's got that, and she still ain't happy. It don't make no sense.
And to be able to not have to like worry about so much, and get to just focus on them. And yeah, I don't know, just day to day. I mean, I say like I'm retired, but like I still do stuff. But I don't do stuff with the intention of like I have to pay the bills with this. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm not like only my husband, only a wife and mom.
See,
like I
be
started
grateful for that.
writing as just a way to like kind of help me from not fixating on like myself or picking at myself, and got into like screenwriting.
Exactly, Burge. That's the problem. Her whole life, she's been looking for validate. Well, she said so herself. She's been looking for validation from other people, the outside world. And yeah, I agree with you, man. Till she does that, she won't be happy.
And which is just like a really great way for if I'm having like just like a destructive thought process or something like that, that I can like turn my mind towards something creative and actually like make something out of all of that mental energy that I'm just turning inward and like hurting myself with. And so then came out with this book, and I'm working on my fourth script right now, and my first one's being made into a comic book, and which I touch on in the book too. But it's also like doing these kind of things not with the intention of like making millions of dollars or impressing a bunch of people, but just that the act of it is so fun. Like I'm interning right now at the story department at WME. That's all I was working on in the car. Yeah, I'm learning how to be a reader and write coverages, and just read lots of scripts and make me a better writer, and like learn like the dark art of like writing coverages, which people don't see. They're not public, but to be able to distill a script down to as few words as possible and know what you're looking for.
Well, I think after they see this, after the WWE sees this, I don't think they're going to be letting her read scripts anymore so that she can work on her writing, because she really didn't yeah, she really didn't she kind of threw him under the bus. She needs to keep her mind going. She's talking much better. Yeah, she is
And all these
now.
things, and just kind of like learning these skills that I'm really fascinated in, and that's just like validating in themselves, and like, and with our ranch and everything like that, and raising our cows. And like my favorite part is we took this land in Oregon that was like completely degraded. It had been mismanaged for years. There was more dirt than there was grass. And to be able to, we're using regenerative practices with our Wagyu and our poultry to be able to like bring this land back to life, So now it's like been more rewarding to me than reading a whole morning of positive comments on a freaking picture is actually like going out and like seeing this land become better. And like that kind of stuff is like really rewarding, and I don't have to worry about, promoting.
I don't know why though, man. I mean, I know she's talking better about the things that she enjoys, but she still looks like the life has just been like her life, like her soul's just been sucked out of her. She just looks like she's just not like she's there, but she's not there. Like she's not really present. Like she's off in some other reality.
It or what people will think of it or how much money I'm making from it. So yeah, like I'm retired, but I'm busy.
It must be difficult to go from those arenas that I watched you in all around the world with all those people screaming and cheering to this farm in Oregon. Because I don't know. I don't know. One assumes that we always talk about this adrenaline rush that you get from fighting and competing. The opposite of that is a farm in Oregon.
I guess so, but I mean, I love my favorite crowds to like wrestle in front of are like small crowds. I love being like in a small, non-televised crowd. That's my favorite. And like fight, I could fight in a closet. I could fight in an arena. It's not making it better to me. You know,
okay.
I just want to win the fight. Like the fight itself is what I care about. That's what gave me the joy. I was completely blocking them out. I mean, they're welcome to be there, but they're like,
It's not. Yeah.
but they're not part of my actual experience of the fight itself. I mean, winning and everyone being like, "Wow!" I mean, that's an incredible feeling. That's great. But
Yeah, when you're getting ready to fight, I think the last thing you're worried about is the crowd. It's the last thing I'd be thinking about.
but that's not why I got into it. I didn't get into like, you know, judo isn't like a big sport that there's going to be crowds of people cheering for you for. You know, anyone that's crazy enough to want to win an Olympic gold medal in anything, it's not because they want to be famous or they want a whole bunch of people to know or cheer for them. It's because they want to be the best at something. And I just love that process of going from knowing nothing about something to mastering it. I love the process of mastery.
You used the word earlier on self-destructive thoughts. Am I right in thinking that your self-destructive thoughts, which appear to still be with you today, are the reason, in part, why you were so great when it came to the UFC and fighting?
Yeah, I guess like, you know.
I wonder how long she's been drinking and smoking. Like, has she always done this? Or is this something she just recently started since she has been out of the MMA and WWE thing? I wonder if it's something she just started or she's been doing it her whole life.
Enter that flow state, I guess, of being like so lost in doing something that you can't think of anything else. Everything else disappears. Like that was always my favorite place to be, you know. In swimming, I didn't have that. Your mind is left to wander while you're swimming. Or in judo, you know, there's nothing happening except for what's happening in front of you. In fighting, there's nothing going on except for what's going on in front of you. And in pro wrestling, there's nothing going on except for the reality you've created in this match that you're in. And yeah, I love being completely lost in the task of doing something the best that you can. Like that's something that's addicting, and I guess something that I still do now. You know, trying to do like through writing and everything like that. But I don't know. I just I guess it's just where my happy place is.
Oh, smoking.
But, you know.
Do you still have those?
Smoking since 2008? Is that what? Did you Google that? Is that what it said? If so, man, that's crazy. No wonder why she's having issues.
Self-destructive thoughts today?
Oh yeah, I mean all the time. But I mean, it's just kind of like something you'll like wake up and be like, oh my God, I remember that thing that you said several years ago. That was so stupid. I remember that thing you tweeted, you stupid bitch. Like, you know, like just things that like come up that you can't do anything about it. But just, you know, ruminate. And sometimes it's like, you know, try not to think of a blue duck kind of
So
a
she's
thing.
been doing it for a while.
And a lot of times it's like that. It's sometimes I'll be in the middle of something great and I'll just be like, don't think of something bad. And then because of that, it'll like pop up in my head. And yeah, I don't know.
Did you go to therapy at any point in your career?
I mean, I've tried, but you know, my mom's a psychologist. So, you know, anyone that I went to talk to, I was just kind of like, you're not as smart as my mom.
The drinking makes you puffy? Yeah. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, but I've been tempted, but I've never found anyone that I really like clicked with. But I've given it a couple of shots, but I mean, maybe it's not for everybody. I don't.
Maybe
think
that's
for
why
me.
she's staring
The
out
other
into
picture that I found when I was
space.
doing my research is this beautiful picture here. And the question I have for you is about the lessons you learned from this man.
Oh, I'm gonna keep this.
You can keep both of them.
Lessons I learned. You know, I wish I remembered more. We don't even have video or anything, you know, very few pictures. But
Is that her dad?
I don't know, like it's just more of like examples that he gave me of how to actually like be a man and how to be a great husband. Like My mom and dad were so in love with each other. I remember they would like make out over our breakfast and we'd be like, oh. Yeah, I know. But he was like so in love with my mom and she was so in love with him. And I think that's why I was smart enough to wait until Trav to get married, because I knew what I was looking for. And so he
Maybe maybe from the 90s on back, you could find a relationship like that, but with social media now, man, you ain't gonna find a relationship like that. See, back in the day, if you were looking for a relationship, you actually making out in front of your kids, yeah, that's crazy. But if you were looking for a relationship back in the day, you actually had to go somewhere. You didn't have social media, you didn't have the internet. Hell, you barely even had cell phones. And if things got hard, people tend to stick together more because it was harder to cheat for one. But nowadays you can't get that anymore, because now if things get hard, they just get on the internet, get on their phone. Up, next person, next person. Yeah, relationships. Social media, I think, will go down as what killed relationships in general. I think so, anyways. Yeah, you actually needed to talk to somebody. Like now, shit, you approach somebody and ask them the wrong thing, you might get a you might get a harassment charge. But yeah, you actually had to talk to people. You actually had to go somewhere, you had to meet people, talk to them, go out on dates. Now they don't do that, man. And now if things do get hard, instead of sticking together, like I said, they just get on the phone, next dude, next next female, whoever, whatever team you're on. But yeah, man, that's crazy. I honestly believe social media will probably go down as the death of relationships, long-term relationships, because that's what they do now. As soon as things get hard, right on the phone they go, or the internet, or some dating app.
showed me what a loving husband and father is. And, he's the one that when my mom was so worried about, me being late developmentally and all these things, my mom said he was the one that was always like, Ronnie's a sleeper. She's going to show everybody. And so he was always the one that like believed that I was going to be like exceptional and put that belief in my mind that I am exceptional and I'm going to do incredible things. And so, yeah. So I didn't know.
What can I get you?
Stupid
I
ads.
want a job where I can help people.
I want a job building rockets.
I want to work somewhere creative.
I want to work somewhere creative too, not where he's working though.
Dare to discover with LinkedIn's AI-powered job search.
Never forgot it, I guess.
There we go.
I think he was right.
You're named after him, right? He's called Ron.
Yeah, I was supposed to be Ronald John Rousey Jr., but I'm a girl, so I'm Rhonda Jean Rousey. The first.
Not the last. And you did show everyone. That's exactly what you did in your career.
My mom used to like watching her in WWE because my mother's name is Rhonda as well. So she used to, that was like her first, she only liked her because she had the same name as her.
You showed everyone. And, it's funny because I'm a big UFC fan, so I watched your career, enjoyed it so much. You gave me some incredible moments throughout all of the sort of those major fights that you had. And it's interesting because from reading your book and speaking to you today, I realized that the very human cost of the entertainment that I enjoyed as a fan. Behind that sat someone who is quite clearly pretty obsessed with winning, being mastery in your own words, and being the very best at everything you apply yourself to. And with that comes a cost. We don't have to pay the cost
Yeah,
as
for
fans.
sure.
We just get to enjoy the entertainment. And so it's very easy, I think, without the full picture being illuminated, to not pay tribute to someone who gave us so much as fans, but behind the scenes had to struggle in really profound ways from the age of 6 years old for that joy that you brought to all of our lives. So on behalf of fans that do understand the full picture, I personally want to say thank you so much for that, because I used to stay up till 4 a.m. in the morning in the UK to watch you fight, because you were like nothing I'd ever seen. You defined the division. You basically created the concept of women.
you can't take that from her. She was a good fighter in the UFC, even though she was having all those problems. She had won 15 straight, and most of them were within like the first round. And then when she lost her first fight, that's when she took the big hit to the head with the kick. And her UFC, that's when she realized that she couldn't take any more hits to the head. And that's when she went to WWE.
Fighting in the UFC. And you did it in a way and with a style that I'd never seen before and frankly haven't really seen since. So thank you for that. I know it's difficult. I can tell from when you talk about those moments how difficult it still is, but that's what I would expect from someone who is one of the real goats of the sport. Thank you for writing this book as well. It's incredibly honest, and I think it's perfectly written in many respects, but the timing of it is perfect because you're in a certain chapter of your life where you're able to look back on all of these experiences with a certain retrospective clarity and wisdom that is incredibly helpful. And you found yourself on the other side of all of this stuff now as a mother and as a normal human away from the WWE and the UFC. And from that perspective, I think everyone can learn a tremendous amount about life, about happiness, about family, about committing yourselves to something with the form of mastery that you had. But also more than anything, what I take from it is what really matters in life. And I think that's, if I've interpreted it correctly, is the real objective of the book. We have a closing tradition on this podcast where the last guest leaves a question for the next guest, not knowing who they're leaving it for.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Why does everyone get scared when I go to this diary? Okay.
No.
Okay, interesting.
Fear of the unknown.
It's not terrifying. Sometimes they're horrific. What was the most fun moment of your entire life?
Of my entire life.
Yeah.
Most fun? God. I mean, I've had a lot of fun. They're probably intimate moments with my husband that I can't share.
Oh,
we
no.
have a good time.
Too much information. We don't need to know that. No.
Be happy for the shout out. He's like, that's what matters.
Rhonda Rousey, Our Fight, out available everywhere right now. An incredible book, and I recommend everyone to go and get it. Thank you so much, Rhonda.
Thank you for having me.